Well, good morning, everyone, to this bright and shiny morning. Welcome to Exodus House LLC Incubation Program with Reach Your Potential through the law of intentionality, meaning the law of growth. Want to thank everybody for tuning in this morning. Thank everybody for coming on board. I believe we're going to get ready to get started. You'll hear people popping on in a little later. I need everybody to make sure that you mute your phones. If you have any questions, you can always come off mute. I can mute you automatically from here, but I'd rather you guys just mute your phone if you have any questions. Before we get started, I would like for, I think I see my sister, Deacon Danielle, to come off of your mute and pray us in real quick.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, no problem. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you this morning giving you all the praise and the glory. Thanking you, Father God, just for who you are. Lord God, we thank you for just giving us another chance to get it right in your name. Lord God, we thank you for waking us up this morning, Jesus. Lord God, we ask that you be with us, Lord God, this morning as we learn, Lord God, educate ourselves, Lord God, get equipped, Lord God, to be able to do what you have called us to do, Father God, the vision that you have put into us, Father God. We thank you, Father God, for Apostle Ray, Lord Jesus, and what you've instilled in him, Lord God, to educate us, Father God. We thank you and we glorify your name, and this is our prayer in your Son, Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I want to just welcome everybody on board. I see we have Pastor Gill. I see we have Sister L. I see we have Brother David. We have some more people that will be coming on trying to figure out how to get on. Oh, and we have Deacon Walt there too. How you doing, sir? How are y'all doing? So let's get right into this. What's going on? So when you talk about, if everybody can see this, we're talking about reach your potential by the law of growth. You know, there are invaluable laws of growth. There's actually 15 invaluable laws of growth. And we want to just start off and lay in a premise. And this is actually just a touch of that's going to tie into other workshops down the road, because this is just, we're going to talk about how do we develop, how do we come from our past to our present to our future. There's certain things that's disconnecting. We have to be intentional about growing. You know, there's a whole lot of things that we can do. We can get better at work. We can get better at this. We can get better at that. But most of the time, we're not intentionally about growing. And you're going to see some of the things that we're talking about. How do we get to this process of growth? The importance of growing. The importance of growing. It is so important for us to grow. So let's get this thing going. So when we always start off, one thing that we always start off at here at Exodus House, we always talk about the 7 laws of wealth, the 7 laws of wealth, the 7 laws of wealth. And you got to remember, everything pertaining to wealth, everything pertaining to growing, it has to start in your mind. There has to be a change of mind, change of your thinking. There has to be a process of taking what you knew and adding new things, or building new things, or changing some perspective that you thought were good that really don't apply right now. So when you talk about the 7 laws of wealth, 1, wealth begins in the mind but ends in the pursuit of a long-term direction. So that is a mindset. You got to remember, we're trying to deal with the mindset. Before we can actually do things tangible, we have to change the way we think. When most of everybody on here are entrepreneurs or business owners, we're coming from a place of, maybe we were employees at one time, okay? Maybe we were supervisors on job at one time. But when you come to a place of ownership, when you come to a place of entrepreneurship, it is a different way of thinking. And one of the things that I want to make sure you guys understand is we cannot continue to be in the box in our perception of how we do business. There is a level of how we do business here, but there's another level that we need to get to. And the only way we can get to that if we change our thinking, and we have what we call big picture thinking, and we have to start understanding the 4 L's: learn, listen, look, live. So we got to understand those things. So number 2, decide that you will not be poor. That is a mindset. Believe in thyself when no one else will. That is a mindset. To thy own self be true. Find your unique gift. That's a mindset. How may I serve thee? That's a mindset. Thou shalt own thy own business. That is a mindset. Then lastly, make thy money grow. Make thy money grow. So when we talk about growth for potential, we're talking about to grow to get your potential. We're not talking about potential to grow. You have to grow for potential. So when we talk about potential, and make sure you guys take notes. If I'm going too fast, tell me to slow down. It's very important. Pay attention. Potential is one of the most wonderful words in any language, because potential, that means that something great can happen, right? This is what potential is. It looks forward with optimism. It's filled with hope. It promises success. It implies fulfillment. It hints at greatness. Potential is a word based on possibilities. These are things that look, whatever you can think, right? The potential that you have, there is a possibility. There is a greatness. There is a fulfillment. There is a success. There is hope. There's optimism in potential. And since you are part of this workshop, I believe you have the desire. See, there takes a desire. You have to have, it's something in you to reach your potential. It does not happen by osmosis. So the question becomes, how do you do it? How do we do this thing to get to our potential? I have no doubt the answer is growth. We have to grow into our potential. We do not potential into our growth. We grow into our potential. To reach your potential, you must grow. And to grow, you must be highly intentional about it. Remember, this is the law of intentionality. This is what we're talking about today. The law of intentionality, meaning you have to be intentional to want to grow. It has to be a makeup. It has to be a mindset. It has to be a willingness, a focal point. You intentionally wake up every morning to grow, not to get a better job, not to get a better position, not to make more money, none of those things, but you intentionally today, what area in my life am I going to grow? This workshop is my effort to help you learn how to grow and develop yourself so you have the best chance of becoming the person you were created to be. We were created. There's a purpose. There's a plan. God has created us to do a specific thing here on earth, a specific thing here on earth. And we look, the Bible said Jesus grew in wisdom and stature. That means even Jesus had to grow. He intentionally had to grow daily, on a daily basis, because he grew in wisdom and stature. That is a growth. So you have to understand you're created, but to get to that thing, to get to the potential, to fulfill whatever it is, there is a growth process. My desire is to help you develop the right attitude, learn more about your strengths, tap into your passion, become more in touch with what? Your purpose, and develop your skills so you can be all that you can be. So when you're talking about growth, growth takes you into goals. Growth takes you to potential. Growth takes you into strength. Growth brings you into your passion. Growth, it gets you in touch. Growth gets you in touch with your purpose. What do I mean when I write about growth? What do I mean when I write about growth? That will be as unique as you are. You see, don't look to other people how they're growing. Growth is unique to you. To discover your purpose, you need to grow in self-awareness. It's about, look, being aware of who you are, right? The process in your growth plan, the process in your growth plan, not someone else's growth plan, but to be aware of who you are, what is your purpose, why were you created, right? To become a better human being, you need to grow in character. You need to advance your career. You need to grow in your skills. You need to be a better spouse or a parent. You need to grow in relationships. You need to reach your financial goals. You need to grow in knowledge about how money works to enrich your soul. You need to grow spiritually. All these areas in your life: economic, spiritual empowerment, social empowerment, domestic empowerment, economical empowerment. You have to go. We have to grow into those areas. You can be prophesied over that you're going to be rich, but you have to grow in the area of finances. When you get this money, what are you going to do? You can be prophesied over that you're supposed to be an entrepreneur. Then you need to start taking business classes. You need to start preparing yourself, understanding, right? Understand you have to grow in those areas. There is a growth process in everything you do to enrich your soul. You need to grow spiritually. The specifics of growth changes from person to person. It's unique to you, but the principles are the same for everybody. I'm going to say it again. The specific of growth change is different from person to person. It changes. Mine's not yours. Yours is not mine. Somebody else's. But the principles to growth is the same. This workshop will offer laws that will teach you how to approach the worthy growth goal of growing. It is a key that unlocks the door. You will have to put in the work to actually grow. Hear me. When you're intentional about something, you have to put in the work. You have to sacrifice the time. You cannot be all over the place doing busy work and not doing the purpose and plan that God has purposed for you to do on this earth. You have to be intentionally to grow in those areas. Those should be the most important things that you do. My recommendation is you keep a growth journal and incorporate what you're learning into your everyday life. What you're learning, what you're going to learn here today, you need to, as you're writing this thing, as you're taking notes and you put it into your journal, these are the things that you need to intentionally apply on a day-to-day basis. Notice the law of intentionality, meaning you have to be intentional, wanting to grow. You cannot change your life until you change something you do every day. If you're doing the same thing every day, the same way, you hit a plateau. There's nothing wrong with what you're doing, but you're going to stay right there. Everything might be moving smoothly and everything is going good and finance, all those stuff, but you're doing the same, but you're not moving. Let me tell you a story. When I first started doing housing in New Orleans, we got to a place where we were making about $300,000 a year, and we made $300,000 the first year, $300,000 the second year, $300,000 the third year. But what I understood to that third year, because I hadn't changed my mindset at that time, I was new to all this stuff, that I really wasn't growing. I thought $300,000, okay, we good. No, I hit a plateau until I realized that the business, to be successful, there has to be growth. If I'm not seeing no growth, I'm not seeing no success. By learning the laws and living them, you will be, and the laws I'm talking about, the laws of intentionality, the laws of growth, right? By living the laws and living them, you will be on your way to reaching your potential. Okay? If you keep learning and growing every day over the course of many years, you will be astounded by how far it will take you. So this is an ongoing process. Growth is an ongoing process that you have to intentionally want to do. The laws of intentionality. Do you have a plan for your personal growth? And I'm going to stop for 1 second. I want you to come on mute, and I want a couple of people to tell me, do you have a plan, a growth plan? Come off mute. I need 3 people to answer that question. Do you have a growth plan? It's either yes, no, or if you do, what is your plan? Anybody? Any takers? Come off of mute. Come off of mute, Pastor.
And want to be a distraction because I'm
Start over again because I just took you off mute. Start again.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I honestly, I'm very happy that we were able to log on because I don't have a growth plan, and it's very, very important in wanting to achieve anything that you're doing to have a growth plan. So this is very, very good information. Very eye-opening. Is definitely when you think about potential and wanting to just grow, you you got to have something in place in order to do that. So I don't have one now, but I am going to get one, thanks to you.
Thank you. David, go ahead. And you guys, if you guys see, if when you hit the manage participant, there is a tab down at the bottom where you can raise your hand. If you have a question, I can actually see that. Go ahead, come off of mute, Mr. David. So you had your hand up. Go ahead, David. Okay, let me move on. Let me mute.
I have one.
Go ahead.
So my growth plan is this, and you have to stop me on my growth plan. I want to do everything at one time. So my growth plan goes like this. I'm in the credentialing stages. I'm a nurse, so I'm in the credentialing stages to be a home care provider, private home care provider for several government programs. And then I'm going to link that with what's going to be different about mine or ours is we will take patients who have mental health issues, who have traumatic brain injuries, and others who will have IV therapy, who need wound care, and then we combine all of the services together. And then as you taught me, as that foundation is set, then I'm going to add, and I've already started the groundwork on it, on adding different grants to it, and then expanding that program to include a different population. We're targeting the rural areas, but then a different population will grow into children, like teens and young adults. It's kind of like a tree with branches. So that's it for now, because you told me I can't do everything I want to do at one time.
Okay, anybody else? Now, what's going to be so powerful about this is I want you guys to pay very close attention to your responses. Okay, okay, now, when we watch this, do you have a growth plan? Do you have a plan for your personal growth? Now, remember, that was the question. Not your accomplishments. A growth plan is not your accomplishments. A growth plan is not how hard you work. A growth plan is not your goals, not what you're doing to reach people. All these are based on activities, not improving. When we're talking about growth, we're talking about improving our personal self to grow, to reach goals, to be successful. Most of the time when we talk about growth plans, we talk about accomplishments, we talk about hard work, we talk about your goals, you talk about how to reach people, but that is not improving us. So that's why it's real important, why this class is so important, to be intentionally to grow. Remember, the key word here is what? Do you have a plan for what? Your personal growth. Your personal growth. Watch this. When you started your career, you were intentional about what? About working, about reaching goals, about being successful. That's when we started. Was your strategy hard work and hope that that would get you where you wanted to go? But this is what's amazing. Working hard doesn't guarantee success, and hope isn't a strategy. The slaves used to work hard, but they never became successful. Think about some of the people that worked 40 and 50 years. They worked hard, but did they become successful? And when you have a hope, right? Hope isn't a strategy. Hope is just hope. I have hope in something. But what is my strategy? So here's some of the questions. You write these down so you can answer these. How do you get better at what you do? How do you improve your relationships? How do you gain more depth and wisdom as a person? How do you gain insight? How do you overcome obstacles? Work longer, work harder, wait for things to get better? Write these questions down. How do you get better at what you do? We're talking about growth now. When you grow, you reach your goals, which will get you to success. How do you improve your relationships? How do you gain more depth and wisdom as a person? How do you gain insight? How do you overcome obstacles? Do you work harder, you work longer, or you just wait for things to get better? No, we couldn't hear you, Mr. David, but we'll come back to you. The key is personal growth. To all those questions, the key is personal growth. If you focus on goals, you may hit them, but that doesn't guarantee you growth. If you focus on growth, you will grow and you will always hit your goals. I'm going to say that again. If you focus on goals, you may hit them, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee you'll grow. But if you focus on growth, you will grow and always hit your goals. People, watch this. People are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. We always want to improve our circumstance. We always want to improve the things around us. We want to improve the job, the business, and all that stuff, but we are unwilling to improve ourselves. So we stay bound in this thing. Can you see the gap between where you were, where you want to be, where you need to be? It's called a growth gap, and you need to figure out how to bridge it. So today, at this workshop today, the law of intentionality, what we're going to be dealing with today is growth gaps. What are some of the growth gaps? What is the gap between where I was and where I am and where I want to be? If you have dreams, goals, or aspirations, you need to grow to achieve them. See, we're not talking about business and all that, and we're talking about us. We're talking individual. You have to grow into these things to be the things that you want to be, to do the things that you want to do. You need to grow to achieve them. You need to grow to achieve your dreams. You need to grow to achieve your goals and aspirations. But if you're like I was, and you're like most people, you have one or more mistaken beliefs that creates a gap that keeps you from growing and reaching your potential. Think about this. What are some of the things that you grew up, some misconceptions, some mistaken beliefs because of your environment or your community or where you were growing, and you live by this thing, but as you got older and you got a little more wisdom, you was like, wow, that wasn't working. But we spent all these years believing that thing that kept us from growing. So what I want you to do, we're going to take a look at the following 8 misconceptions about growth that may be holding you back from being as intentional as you need to be. And remember, write that word down, intentional. We want to wake up and we want to intentionally grow on a daily basis in some area of our life, because that will take us closer to where we want to go. Okay, here are the 8 things that we're going to talk about today. The assumption gap. I assume that I will automatically grow. The knowledge gap. I don't know how to grow. The timing gap. It's not the right time to begin. The mistake gap. I'm afraid of making mistakes. The perfection gap. I have to find the best way before I start. The inspiration gap. I don't feel like doing it. Yeah, I don't feel like doing things a lot of times. The compassion gap. Others are better than I am. Always thinking, getting to areas where I don't want to walk into a place because I know I'm not on that level. The expectation gap. I thought it would be easier than this. Wow. You can write those down. Or you can write them down as we go. Okay? Number 1, the assumption gap. I assume that I will automatically grow. Just like that. Watch this. When we are children, our bodies grow automatically. A year goes by and we become taller, stronger, more capable of doing new things and facing new challenges. That just happens automatically. Every year you get taller, you get stronger, you get more capable of doing stuff. But what happens is, I think many people carry into adulthood a subconscious belief that mentally, spiritually, and emotional growth follows a similar pattern. We just assume that if we just keep living, we'll get stronger mentally, we'll get stronger spiritually, we'll get stronger emotionally, because that's just as subconscious. That's what happened as we were growing up. Things just happen every year. We just grew into stuff. We believe we grew into this stuff, right? So we believe we're just supposed to grow into being mentally tough. We're just supposed to grow into being more spiritual. We're just supposed to grow into being more emotional, right? We're like Charlie Brown in Charleston Schultz Peanuts comic strip, who once said, "I think I discovered the secret of life. You hang around long enough until you get used to it." And that's what most of us do. We just hang around, get used to doing things, right? Not doing anything to improve any area of our personal life. None whatsoever, okay? The problem is that we don't improve by simply living. Ask yourself, just be real honest with yourself. If we be real honest with ourselves, ask ourselves, right? What am I doing on a daily basis to improve something in my personal life? See, the problem is that we don't improve by simply living. We have to be intentional about it. A time comes when you need to stop waiting for the man or woman you want to become and start being the man or woman you want to be. Wow. Say that again. A time comes when and I'm gonna put we need to stop waiting for the man or woman we want to become and start being the man or woman we want to be. No one improves by accident. It just don't happen. Personal growth doesn't just happen on its own. We just don't start growing personally because we walk into something and blah, blah, blah. And once you're done with your formal education, you go to school, 12th grade, you graduate, or you might go to college, you graduate, and you think we think we have arrived somewhere. But that has nothing to do with our personal growth. We must take complete ownership of the growth process. Because a degree don't necessarily gave me information how to do something, but it didn't necessarily teach me how to grow. I didn't work on growing. That's why you get a degree in some things and you need a degree, but you just as crazy as you was as a person without a degree. Because nobody else will do it for you. This is a personal, we have to take personal ownership in our own personal growth. If you want your life to improve, you must improve yourself. I always say, look at the man in the mirror. And there's a reason for that. You must make that a tangible target. See, if we don't intentionally, or we don't make this a target in our life, we will always go through life la-di-da-di, loving somebody and all that, kumbaya and all that stuff. But if you look at some of your friends, and I'm 60, so it's a little easier for me. So when I go back and talk to my hometown and talk to some of my friends, they're still talking about stuff we were doing in the 70s. They have not grown, not one bit. Still acting the same way in the 70s. Still have the same wants and needs as in the 70s. Number 2, the knowledge gap. I don't know how to grow. Let me back up for a minute. So when we talk about the assumption gap, we have to stop assuming things is just going to happen by osmosis. Things just don't happen. As far as growing, of course, things happen, but as far as us and a personal growth, things just don't happen. We have to improve. We have to work on it. We have to work on things in our life to grow, to achieve the things that we want. The knowledge gap, I don't know how to grow. Many people learn only from the school of hard knocks, and that's important. That's when you're just talking about living. You just excuse me. You just go through things. Difficult experiences teaches them lessons the hard way, and they change sometimes for the good or the bad, for the better or the worse. You see, so we take our life experiences, right, that will cause us to deal with stuff, to change us, but it can change us according to whatever that is. We really didn't take ownership in that change. The lessons are random and difficult. See, this is like, random. It's just coming. No control over it. Now watch this. It's much better to plan your growth intentionally. See, I will intentionally, look, you can decide where you need and want to grow. You choose what you want to learn, and you follow through the discipline going at the pace you set. See, things just ain't going to come at me any old way, because I have a specific plan, a specific purpose. I was created for a specific thing, and I'm working on a specific area in my life to grow. I'm choosing what I want to learn. I'm choosing what I want to do. I'm choosing what I need to grow in, what area I need to grow in, right? And then I'm just disciplined, and I follow the pace in that area. I'm not swayed from anything. I learned how to do that based on my choices and no one else's, not based on circumstances, situation, environmental things, right? How many of us really can say we learned a lot through hard times, through this and that, right? It forced us to grow at a pace where we really might not have been comfortable. But when you understand the knowledge gap, when you understand that you have the ability, that you intentionally have the ability to work in the area that you choose in your life to grow, at the rate that you want to grow, and keep the discipline, then your life becomes more in order. There are 5 areas you must cover to close the knowledge gap. And we're not going to deal with these areas today. We'll deal with that at another time. But you're talking about your attitude, your goals, your discipline, your measurement, and your consistency. These are the areas that you need to understand that will close that knowledge gap that's bridging you from your past to your present to your future. That is the bridge. How you change your attitude, what goals you set for, the discipline that you decide, how you're measuring the tangible things that's happening in your life, and the consistency of your life. These are the things that you're controlling now in your growth plan, and you're not letting situations, circumstances, and things and environments and people dictate to you where you need to grow at. Learning these lessons, learning the lessons of attitudes and goals and discipline and measurement and consistency, learning these lessons will open up doors for personal growth. The key, personal growth. you then will grow. Look, when you start doing these things in these particular areas, this is what's going to happen. You will then see growth opportunities everywhere. Your world will begin to open up. You will accomplish more. You will learn more. You will have more opportunities that's presented in front of you. Your world will expand from specifically dealing with yourself, dealing with your growth plan, opportunities, accomplishment, learning more, expansion in your life will happen. When you make the decision to grow, it will impact your life more than anything else other than your faith. Your faith will, look, my faith is so big. But when I get my growth plan, that'll be the next thing that will just affect my life. That will change my life. Faith is always number one. And when I start working on myself, when I start expanding myself, the impact of me growing, the impact when I make a decision, when you make a decision to grow intentionally in an area of your life, take 2 minutes right now, and write down areas that you believe in your life right now that you need to work on. Take 2 minutes. Okay, let's take a few minutes. If you wrote some things down, let a couple people just share what you wrote down real quick. Unmute yourself and just share a couple of things.
Danielle here. My main thing is pushing when I'm tired, not using, I'm tired, I'll get to it tomorrow as an excuse, and prioritizing what's most important.
Okay, someone else?
People walk. We came up with those things together. My main thing is still doing it when I don't feel like doing it. Like you said earlier, you do a lot of stuff you don't feel like doing. I got to learn that discipline. Mm-hmm. And just coming up with a system to where I'm getting the most out of every minute, making sure I'm not just doing busy work and making sure I'm doing stuff that's going to move the needle.
Right.
Yeah, it's real important to make sure that we do stuff that add value. If it don't add value, something like anybody else.
Absolutely.
Anybody else real quick?
Yeah, I think it just.
Hey, Charlie.
I got a friend with me this morning. I think it's just basically, I can relate to what Deaconess Danielle and Walt was saying, discipline. I think that sums up everything, discipline. Because when you're just maneuvering through your day-to-day activities and you do find yourself kind of get drained or worn out, and that you have to have discipline enough to continue on with you know, whatever it is that your daily goals are, for your personal growth and your, you know, your business goals.
Go ahead. Who's next?
Mhm.
One more person.
Good morning. This is
Good
Talia.
morning.
Good morning. I would say for me, as much as I talk about it, I would have to definitely say health. Really taking that time out to go to the gym. I eat pretty healthy, but I feel like if your health is lined up, it really helps with the way that you think. And a lot of people don't understand really the importance of exercising and how you need that which is your serotonin to really balance everything out and just pushing, because it helps you think on a better level. So I would think that would be for me to really get my health line up to balance out those chemicals in my body.
Oh, so, and here's the good thing, what you guys are putting down, these are remember, we're talking about developing a growth plan. So these are some of the theories, things and areas in your life that's going to be a part of your growth plan, okay? So when you look at, so we looked at them 5 areas. Now remember, you might want to write down these 5 areas: attitude, goal, discipline, measurement, and consistency, right? So you make their decision, and these are the areas that you work on as part of your growth plan for you to grow. As far as eliminating that knowledge gap. Okay, third, the timing gap is not, now this right here, if you don't, and for me, when I study stuff and I do stuff, the stuff that I applied that really, really worked in my life, and this right here might be one of the most powerful sessions, powerful gaps that we need to really work on. That I only feel like that I really needed to work on. And like I always tell people all the time, if I preach or I teach, it's not so much it's not so much what you need, it's so much what's good for me or works for me, and it just might work for you. Now there are times, and I was thinking about this, there are times where I just say, you know, and I think we need to get in leadership roles and ownership roles and a business role. You know, I hear people say all the time, sometimes I hear leaders say, well, we just can't tell people what to do, blah, blah. But I don't believe in that philosophy. When I had my churches in New Orleans, I told my people what to do. Why? Because if I'm in charge and I have the solutions and I have the answers to the problems, and the people, we're there to be the solution. So sometimes you have to tell a person what to do because they don't know what to do. They're just going from their perception. They're going from their place of belief for a situation. And we give them too much power in our businesses or in wherever we're at to make a decision based on what they think and not on the purpose and plan that God created for us. And that's very careful. You have to be very careful not to empower people that God wants you to empower, if I could say it like that. And the only way sometimes that you can empower people, you really have to just tell them. Miss Ella, you have your hand up? Miss Ella? Miss Ella, you raised your hand? No?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
It broke up. Like I got chops of what you said. And you were saying something about don't buy into what other people are telling you.
No.
Is that it?
No.
I couldn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Sometimes you need, when you're in a leadership position, you need to tell people what to do. See, so many times, and if I can apply it to the church sometimes, pastors and stuff, and I hear them tell me all the time, well, we can't tell the people what to do. Well, we need to tell the people what to do because the reason they're under us, because they don't know what to do. So I'm a little different. I tell people what to do. It's like I'll walk up and say, no, this is what I need you to do. Because I'm a leader, and the reason why you're there is because I'm supposed to be leading you. So if you're always telling people or giving them options, then how will they ever grow? Or how would they ever learn? And you're going to see further on down in this gap, in the growth gap, where that applies and why people don't grow. So, I mean, I don't have to be nasty and coming in, but we have the ability to come tell. I have the ability and the authority. Remember, in your businesses, you have the ability and authority. You're asking your employees to do something, right? But technically, you're not really asking them, you're telling them. You're just putting it in a asking form. But technically, if they're working for you, right, and you're paying them, right, I'm not asking them to do anything. I'm literally telling them, this is what you do. Do that make sense? And as you grow, you'll get that understanding. Because we need to help. If I'm growing and I need people around me to grow, then I need to tell them. That's what this class is about, growing. How do we grow? Okay? So when we talk about the timing gap, this is real important. Frank Clark said, what great accomplishments we have in the world if everybody had done what they intended to do. Now, with good intentions, you get exactly what you get, right? How many of us have intended to do so many? If we did everything we intended to do, we probably wouldn't even be on this workshop. We'd be, because we would be so far wherever we want to be, right? We wouldn't need to be here because we would already be growing. We would already be doing the stuff we needed to do. Most people, watch this. Ask yourself, get honest with yourself. Most people don't act as quickly as they should on things. Let me share something with you. Let me finish reading this. Most people don't act as quickly as they should on things. They find themselves the subject to the law of diminishing intent, which says the longer you wait to do something you should do now, the greater the odds that you will never actually do it. Here's something that I would do. If someone asked me to do something, my wife might ask me to do something. She said, but you don't have to do it right now. And I know I have things I got to do. I go do it right then and there. Why? Because if I put that off to later, not only will I have to do that, I might have to do other things that compounds on top of what I have to do. So sometimes look, if it takes you 30 seconds to do something, just go do it. And then go to your next project or go back to what you're doing. If it's something that's going to take time, then put it on your list. But if it's just something that's going to take you don't even take you less than 3-4 minutes, just go do it. Because the longer you wait, the less likely you're going to do. Watch this. So you may be under personal or professional pressure right now, right, to do stuff. And if you are, you're probably anxious to start growing and developing. But what if you're not? Whether you feel prompt to or not, now is the time to start growing. So watch this phrase. Life lived for tomorrow will always be a day away from being realized. So every time you want to put something off for tomorrow, you didn't realize that it can actually happen today. Because everything that you put off, right, it's not guaranteed that you're going to do it. Especially when you have the opportunity to do it right now. Watch this. The reality is that you will never get much done unless you go ahead and do it before you are ready. Don't know, oh, I'm not ready to do it yet. I'm not ready to do this. I'm not ready. I'm working on it. I'm going to get there. No, you need to just start doing it. The reality is that you will never get much done unless you go ahead and do it before you are ready. Just start doing it. Watch this. If you're not already intentionally growing, you need to start today. If you don't, you may reach some goals which you can celebrate, but you will eventually reach a plateau. You will level out. And once you start growing intentionally, you can grow, you can keep growing and keep asking what's next. See, when you start doing stuff right now, right, then you go to what's next. Not to, oh, I need to go back and do this. Or what's left. When do we get to the part where we say what's next instead of what's left? See, so there has to be, you have to intentionally want to grow. Intentionally. To get to the point where you keep growing and you keep asking what's next, because that means you're knocking things off. I believe me, people say this to me, oh, Apostle or Mr. Ray, I don't want to bother you because you're so busy. No, I'm not busy. Either we have to stop being busy and start being productive. No, I want to be known for being productive, not being busy. That's why I tell people I ain't busy. I'm productive for my time. See, that's why, we get to the place to have the ability, right, for personal growth. There's sometimes when just cut the phone off. This Fortune 500 CEO, I remember reading God is My CEO. And he says when he's doing stuff that he needs to really focus on and that's going to develop his personal growth or whatever, he cuts his phone off. Now he's CEO, Fortune 500 company. They said, well, what happened if you get some important phone calls, people call you and your phone's off? He said, well, if it's important, they'll call back. You see, when I'm intentionally growing, I'm not being bound to my cell phone. I'm not being bound that I have to answer my phone for everybody. I remember a guy told me, he said, well, if you're a man of integrity, you will always answer your phone. Well, and I fell for that for years, but that's not true. Because if I keep answering my phone, I will never grow in areas that I need to grow in because I'm always being sidetracked. I'm always being, and it's okay for me because I have a personal growth plan, right? I have a personal phone, right? That I have a personal right to answer or not answer, to answer texts or not answer texts. I have that personal right to do that without people feeling offended. And if they do feel offended because I'm growing, I'm okay with it because that tells me more about the person than tells me about me. So we come to this place when I intentionally start growing. I remember I said when you're not intentional, you get bound. That phone bounds us because we feel we're obligated to it when actually it's obligated to us. Because the time I take to answer calls that has no value takes away from something that I could be doing that's adding value. I can get back to you later when I have that time. Number 4, the mistake gap. Let me stop for a second. Are there any questions up to this point? Questions, comments, concerns? Go ahead.
Make sure I'm off of mute. Yeah, it's just more or less a comment, just going back to the timing gap. I just see myself in that as far as, when someone gives me a task or I have to do something, I'm just want to do it right away, just get it done. And I can hear my husband saying, "Babe, you just want to do everything, but you have to, have time management and balance your time." So for me, it's just more or less finding that balance. And when you're actually doing something, that's on your list of things to do, you have to make sure that, you have that balance. So I think that was really good. I just want to comment on that.
Here's a question. Why do we allow people to force their values on us that serves no purpose for us?
I think I know.
Go ahead.
I would say because we don't have our own values or our own. Either you either live your goals or you live other people's goals, and so if we don't have our own goals, we're living other people's goals. So I think that's pretty much where that comes from. Like, okay, this person needs this is their vision. So they ask you, they using a universal law, using other people's brain power to enhance their brain. And so they're using your brain to help them accomplish their goal, which is natural. But if you had a goal, you'll be pursuing your goal. You wouldn't really, well, you will still have time to help someone else, but you will still be more focused on where you're headed.
Exactly. And you can actually, your purpose, plan, creation, whatever you created for, everything, it actually ties into whoever God has got you tied into. But you said it real good, Deacon. Well, a lot of times people don't know their goals, don't know their value, and they're living off of other people's value and other people's goals. And then they get offended when that other person don't acknowledge or they don't reap the rewards that the other person gets. Okay. The mistake goal. I'm afraid of making mistakes. Wow. Growing can be a messy business. It means admitting you don't have the answers. It requires making mistakes. It can make you look foolish. Most people don't enjoy that, but that is the price of admission if you want to improve. My guy says, what would you attempt to do if you knew you wouldn't fail? You would attempt to do everything. There ain't nothing you wouldn't stop. But because you think you'll make a mistake, there's a lot of things you don't want to step out the boat and walk on the water. If you want to grow, you need to get over any fear you may have making mistakes. Professor Ennis says, a mistake is simply another way of doing things. To become intentional about growing, expect to make mistakes every day and welcome them as a sign that you are moving in the right direction. Mistakes, you grow from mistakes. You listen. If you look at your most wealthiest people, you look at your most prosperous people, you look at your most people who you value, they got to that place before they got to that place in life based on all the mistakes that they made, and they knew how to correct them. That they were able to correct, put it that way. Because they're a perfect person, right? There's nothing to correct. But I go back to that passage. Jesus grew in wisdom and stature. The perfection gap. I have to find the best way before I start. Now, doesn't that sound so familiar? I'm such a perfectionist. I need to make sure everything is right before I get into something, right? That's how we feel. Similar to the mistake gap is the perfection gap. The desire to find the best way to get started in a growth plan. What is the best way for me to get started? A growth plan. What is the best way? You have to get started if you want to find out the best way. Just get started doing it and you'll find out the best way to do it. If you don't never start it, you're never going to find out the best way because you don't know if it's the best way or not until you start it. It's similar to driving on an unfamiliar road at night. Ideally, you like to be able to see your whole route before you begin, but you see it progressively. As you move forward, little more of the road is revealed to you. If you want to see more of the way, then get moving. Stop waiting around. Talking about I need to get it right. I need to figure out this thing up. Excuse me. I need to get started this growth plan, but I need to first figure out and put everything in place. Well, you'll never have everything in place because you don't know what place everything should be in until you start doing it. The inspiration gap. I don't feel like doing it. And this was way before Nike. Just do it. Now, y'all getting ready to run out of here. Watch this. Motivation is overrated. Motivation. I do a morning motivation. That's even overrated. I have news for you. Motivation is not going to strike you by lightning. And motivation is not something that someone else, nurse, doctor, family member, can bestow or force on you. The idea of motivation is a trap. Forget motivation. Just do it. Just do it. Why? Exercise, lose weight, test your blood sugar or whatever. Do it without motivation, and then guess what? After you start doing the thing, that's when motivation comes and makes it easier for you to keep on doing it. You get motivated after you start doing it. Oh, I need to get motivated to do it. Well, if you need to get motivated to do it, what happens if you don't never get motivated to do it? Then you never do it. What happens if you just do it? When you start doing it, then you get motivated. I know that was kind of fast. Let me slow down and say it again. If you don't get motivated to do it, you won't do it. But if you do it, you will get motivated to continue doing it. Motivation is like love and happiness. Now, we're not talking about Al Green. Love and happiness. Oh, excuse me. Stay focused. It's a byproduct. When you're actively engaged in doing something, we actively engage in love and happiness, right? It sneaks up and zaps you when you least expect it. Oh, man, I love this person. We just started out talking, and then all of a sudden, our interactions, and all of a sudden, wow. After you start doing it, after you get that first phone call, after you go on that first date, after you do these certain things, then because you start doing it, then wow, then it hits you. Oh wow, I want to spend the rest of my life with this person. Jerome Bruner says, you're more likely to act yourself into feeling than feel yourself into action. Oh, you're more likely to act yourself into feeling than feel yourself into action. So just act. Whatever it is you know you should do, do it. Simple. You may not feel inspired to aggressively pursue a growth plan if you haven't started yet. That's the case. Please trust me when I say that the reasons to keep growing far outweigh the reasons to start growing. You see? And you discover the reasons to stay with growth only if you stick with it long enough to start reaping the benefits. You have to understand, that's where that discipline comes in. So make a commitment to yourself to start and stick with it for at least 12 months. If you do, you will fall in love with the process. So you got to fall in love with the process of the growth plan. The process of growing. The process. And you will be able to look back at the end of that year and see how far you have come. The comparison gaps. Others are better than I am. Now watch this. It's time to realize that we need to expose ourselves to bigger and better leaders outside of our own small circle. We need, listen, in order to grow in your growth plan, in order to grow personally, you have to get around people that are bigger and better than yourself. As long as we stay at the same place with the same people, we at this plateau, right? And don't get, this is going to be a hard piece. And let me talk to my millennials, because one of the things that is hard, and I don't want to say this as a blanket statement, because it's more figuring stuff out. A lot of millennials that I talk to, y'all like to figure stuff out, which is okay. But when you get around people who have already figured it out, stop trying to figure it out. But you have to get around those people to save that energy of always wanting to figure stuff out, which is okay. But sometimes if you just get exposed to different people, to people that's already done certain things, right? At first it will be intimidating, because as you talk and share, you quickly find out that you're not in their league. I have a thing that I go to every first Wednesday called the Strategic Alliance, and I bring new people. And they get intimidated because all these people around the room, they look alike, the same age, but their ideas are so much vast than the new people in the room. So it gets intimidated, and you be like, oh man, because I had a person, and she's not on the call today. She was like, I wasn't ready for them. I said, no, you were ready. Because what you'll find out is they have more ideas than you, and you feel like you're over your head and you're trying to swim upstream, right? But here's the thing. Stay encouraged. Why? because you will discover that great men and women are willing to share their ideas. You have to get around that and don't feel intimidated, or don't compare yourself to where they are, because where you are now, they once were. So they're willing to give you all that information. They're willing, you'll learn much more. You got to be around people that are ahead of you to start learning more, to start understanding more. To get over this comparison gap, you have to learn to be comfortable with being out of your comfort zone. You see? If I took next month, if all you guys come to this meeting next month on the first Wednesday, I know a lot of us have church on Wednesdays, but you will see a whole new world open up. It's a difficult transition, but it's well worth it. It's well worth sitting in this room, listening to these people. The majority are millennials, and we have our older guys, to just listen to where they're at in life. And the question is, what can we do to help you? So when you get in an environment like that, it might be intimidating, but be encouraged, because they're willing to help. And lastly, the expectation gap. I thought it would be easier. Well, I don't know any successful person who thinks growth comes quickly or climbing to the top is easy. It just doesn't happen. People create their own destiny. How? Here's the formula. Preparation. Preparation is growth. You start growing. You start preparing yourself. You start working on your growth plan. You start working on yourself. You start eliminating these gaps in your life. Your growth plus your attitude. Start changing your attitude. Not thinking you might know everything, not having a bad attitude. Understanding. The Bible says, do unto others as they want you to do unto you, right? So when you have that type of mentality, right, you will always treat people right. You will always be courteous. Your attitude will always change, because based on how you want to treat people, based on how you want to be treated, is how you treat people. And then when opportunities arise, a lot of times, opportunities sit right in front of you. You know what most people say? I'll get back with you. I know for me, right, I understand opportunities come in front of me. God has placed opportunities. I know all opportunities ain't opportunities, but when you're in tune, when you're in touch with your growth and you're in spiritual with this connection with God, an opportunity comes. I watch this, an opportunity that I have been praying about. I don't need to go pray about it when that opportunity comes. And a lot of us makes that mistake. We pray for a particular thing. As soon as that thing comes, right, we go back and pray and we lose the opportunity. To give you an example, Peter was locked up and he was getting ready to be executed the next day. And the angels came and released him. But they were at this house. All these Christians was at this house. All these people were at the house praying for Peter's release. They were praying for Peter's release. When Peter got released, he knocked on the door. The damsel came and opened the door, said it was Peter. They saw Peter, and she slammed the door. What she was praying for, she shut out. And she came back and said, "It's Peter at the door." Well, if you pray for something and the answer came right in front of you, why do you just let them in? And then action. That's where the opportunity, that's when the action, doing something about it. The opportunity is there. You pray for it. God put it in front of you. You don't need to go pray about it, because you already prayed about it. You got the answer. You need to go do it to reach your destiny. It all starts with preparation, though. You have to be prepared. You have to, we have an incubation program. It's preparing you to get ready for bigger things. But you have to be disciplined to want to do it. When you have your growth plan, it prepares you to want to do business. You see, because as you're growing and as your passion, and as all these things are working in your life, it propels you into your purpose. It propels you into why you created, because now you have worked on yourself. And when you walk into that sphere of influence, you are prepared. It takes time to get there, but here's the best news. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. You can change what you want to work on, when you want to work on it in your life at any moment. If you want to reach your goals and fulfill your potential, become intentional about personal growth, and it will change your life. And just to let y'all know, this contact information anytime for speaking engagement workshops, Rand Doreen Wilkerson, Access House LLC. This is our PO box, this is our email, and this is our website. Join us at any time, and bam. Questions, comments. Our next process, just to let you know, and I will be sending out. It's going to be 3 questions, right, pertaining on what you got here today. It'll be asked in which of the gaps discussed in the workshop caused you to neglect growing in the ways. So it's going to be, I'm going to send this over to you that you can take what you learned, right, and then apply it and answer questions, about the law of intentionality to your life. Applying it. We have to apply this. It's good to just come to this workshop and get the information and says it sounds good and all that stuff. But then what we go further with, right? That we have to ask ourselves, making the transition to intentional growth. See, these are the gaps. These are what things that are keeping us from the past, present, and future. But how do we make that transition? So our next workshop will actually be dealing with how do we make that transition into intentional growth. See, the key thing that I always tell people, we excited, we want to do stuff, but the main key is to be able to time management. And what can I eliminate out of my life that don't add value to my life? What am I intentionally to do? When I wake up in the morning, I pray, I do all my things for God, but then I don't do anything for me. But God has given me all these resources, all these talents, all these gifts. What am I working on in my personal life today that God has gifted me with to do the things that He wants me to do? Right. Remember, attitude, preparation, discipline, measurement. Measure your day. What areas did you grow today? At the end of the day, see, these principles, right? These are all spiritual principles. The Bible says, examine yourself, right? To know that you're still saved, right? Well, examine yourself to know that this area you just grew today in your life. What areas do I really need to grow in? And when you look at these 8 areas of growth gaps, what do I need to work on to bridge it in my life? You see, I know for me, number 6 is just because number 6 is the inspirational gap where we talked about motivation is overrated. Motivation becomes its greatest when you start doing, because it motivates you to do more. Because what happens if I never get motivated to do something? Do I ever do it? But what happens if I just do it, right? And I start liking it, it motivates me to do more. Watch this. I've been wanting to do something for 20 years. Never did it. So I start doing it, and I realized it wasn't for me. Guess what motivates me now? What motivates me is not to do that no more, not to think about that no more, and move to something that's really worth doing. See, it works both ways. It can motivate me to do, and it can motivate me not to do because it has no value. Because you can be motivated to do something, and you've been doing it for 10 years, and you still haven't seen no change, but you've been doing it for 10 years. So, but you're motivated to do it, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Any questions? Comments? I'm gonna go around the room. Let me know what you got out of it. Everybody needs to answer this question. But then, because I know I got a bunch of preachers, prophetess, and all that stuff on here. 3 minutes or less. Tell me what you got out of the thing. What better could we do? Lizette, you want to be sending out some stuff for you guys. We're also going to be this is a workshop that's going to be weekly. Some of you guys just give me a call and see how some other things we can work out. But yes, this is not just a one workshop. This is because there's actually 15 invaluable laws of growth, and we're going to deal with them all. Okay, let's go. Just tell me a little bit what you got out of it. What motivates you? What are some of the things you want to change?
For me, I liked when you talked about when we pray about an opportunity, and when that opportunity comes, to stay consistent with it. So I think for me, it would be consistency. I've come across opportunities and I prayed about it, just like the little girl when Peter came and he was like, I'm here, but she didn't really believe him, so for me, just keeping it short, just staying consistent. So when that opportunity comes, just staying with that 12-month consistency and just staying with it. And also, like what you said too, just do it. There's no motivation. You just got to just make it happen. And I think that's what we lack in the little areas, is just taking that small step. And once we do that small step and we notice that we like it, just keep on going. So consistency and staying with the 12-month plan. So thank you for the information. Very powerful.
Next.
Yes, this is Deacon Walt. I got a lot out of it with the potential, and potential is good, but it's got to be activated, because a lot of potential they say, I was reading something that said there's more potential in the graveyard than that could ever be on the earth, because people never use potential, because thing about potential is it's something that can be. So once it's done, it's no longer potential. It is. And so just with that, and I do got a question that I got to ask you. With me, rigorous schedule, like 10 hours a day before I get back home. I think I end up taking 1 week off, that done led to 2 weeks. I know I just got to jump back in it. But how do I keep that energy after I go and do 10 hours of labor and then come home, and I need at least 3 hours of building, my personal brand and stuff like that. On top of, as soon as I get home, I got a son I got to spend time with, because he's been waiting for me all day. So I got to at least put in an hour, 2 hours with him, and I still got to find the energy to still put in 2 hours or 3 hours with my brand. So how do I accomplish that? Well, besides just doing it.
See, that's the whole thing. As an entrepreneur, remember I talked about mindset? An entrepreneur's mindset. This is my mindset. An entrepreneur will work 80 hours a week so he don't have to work 40. Period. When I start stuff, when I started, let me give you an example. And I had to deal with grandkids and all that stuff. But when I started my housing program in New Orleans, I would get up at 5, go check all the houses by 6, do everything. Last group be at 8, and then go back out and survey all the houses between 12 and 1 in the morning. Because I knew the only way for me to build my brand and to be able to pass it on to somebody else, no one can know more about my business than me.
Jesus.
See, because and I'll get Mr. Keelan on one day, and he'll tell you, I walked into my business one day and we had like 7 employees and they weren't acting right. Guess what I did? I fired all 7 of them. And I ran that one day. I ran my business by myself. And then when they came back, I told them, y'all come back. Their mind was right. Because I don't need them to run my business. I'm giving you an opportunity to grow into something. But what you have to do, Brother Walt, really have to have some conversations, and hear me out, even with your son. Can you go Monday, Wednesday, Saturday? That's his time. Because this is your question you got to ask yourself. If you needed a pair of boots and your son needed a pair of boots, you need a pair of boots and your son needed a pair of boots, who boots do you buy?
Both.
No, you only have enough money for one. What boot do you buy?
His.
No, you buy yours so that you can make the money to buy his.
Ooh.
You see, that's where we miss the sacrifice I made for my sons and my daughters, my grandkids and my wife, right? They're reaping the benefits now. That's the conversation that we have to have, especially with a son. With your son, you have to have that conversation. Son, as a man, you have to provide. Sometimes you might not have as much time as you want to spend with your family, but in the long run, we'll have all the time in the world. You see what I'm saying? It's a total different mindset. It's a conversation. It's a conversation. My son lived in North Carolina. So he was living in this trailer park. So I go in, right? And I'm watching my grandkids, because there's no stores. They opened up a house store. They had a little store with candy stuff. I'm watching my grandkids, right? Little kids coming over. I'm watching them run the business. I'm watching them run the business. My son sacrificed some stuff, but what he's teaching them, watch this, he's teaching them how to be a man at an early age. And sometimes as men, we can't always be there if being there means it's going to impose on a better lifestyle for my family. Sometimes when I have to go to New Orleans or I have to go to New Jersey, even though Sister Doreen is sick now. So what I have to do, I have to take her to her sister or her aunt and let her stay there for a week. And then I have to keep doing what I have to do to provide a better life for her. So some of the things that you have to do, your sacrifices with that is going to provide a better life for your son. You know what I'm saying? And you just have to do it. You know what I'm saying? Because you think about this, stay positive, think about this. You're there, right? And I know you, I see you. I see you do a great job with your son. That's not going to change if 2 or 3 days out of a week, you have to invest in your branding. Your son's still going to love you. Guess what he's going to learn? Investing in himself. Right?
Yes.
Because you're there. You see, sometimes, And I had to learn this the hard way. I'm not like you guys. I wasn't around when all my kids and all that were growing up because I was on drugs and all. But I'm there now. What I'm realizing now is, long as I'm there for the most important times in their life, man, that adds value. You know, and long as he knows you're there, you see, because it ain't nothing like you still in the same house, you're still in the same building. You know, if he has a question, he can come knock on the door and ask you. So that doesn't change. So you have to get into that mentality is that, you know, it's even with your wife. Both of y'all have businesses. Y'all have to both sacrifice some time because you want to get that on the back end. What do I mean on the back end? As life winds down and you can just do what you want because of the work you put in on the front end, right? What time do I get up in the morning?
Who, you?
Yeah.
You get up about 5.
Yeah. But then here's the reality. I get up whenever I want. I used to get up originally at 5 for a particular purpose, but I get up 5 because it's just natural. But if I choose not to, right? Because of what I did 15, 20 years ago. Makes sense. So what you do now, 10, 15, 20 years ago from now, well, you need a pair of boots and your son need a pair of boots. 15 years from now, what boots do you buy? Well, 15 years from now, you might want to go by the store and sell the boots. So your son could just go on the shelf and get a boot. It makes sense?
Oh, yeah.
You see, that's where that personal growth comes. I need to grow. I need to grow. You know, the last story, my daughter, right? She came and spent time with me in North Carolina. She was supposed to stay 2 weeks. And I hadn't been in her life. She was supposed to spend 2 weeks. She wound up spending the whole summer, right? She went back home to her mom. A couple of weeks go by. Her mom calls me. She said, your daughter says she's so glad she spent that whole summer with you. Watch this. This is only a couple of months. Now, I hadn't seen her for years. I wasn't in her life, you know. Watch this. In those couple of months, she said, 2 months, she said, I'm glad I went and spent time with my dad because now I know what a real man looks like. It's not the time, it's the quality. Not the quantity, it's the quality. You know what I'm saying? It's the quality time that you spend with your son. That's making any sense. And you can't, and the enemy will try to make you feel guilty for however you grew up and however your dad and father relationship was that you didn't like and you said you're not going to do, and the enemy will make you feel guilty because maybe if we had a better understanding of our father's relationship, my dad wasn't there and I couldn't stand him, blah, 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 and I wound up on drugs and all that stuff, and I couldn't be there for my kids, but my understanding came into line when I was in a rehab, and my dad was an alcoholic, and my dad had the same disease I had, and I wanted to be in my kids' life, but my disease didn't let me, and I now understood why he wasn't in my life based on his disease of alcoholism. And because I understood that, I was good with my dad. I still never seen him again. Matter of fact, I didn't even know he died. For 2 years went by before I knew he died. But guess what? My heart, right? Because I didn't know, I could have still been mad at him thinking he didn't want to spend time with me, right? But he had a disease just like me that kept me from my kids. So, yeah, do what you need to do. Spend your quality time with your son. But building your brand will leave an inheritance for your kids' kids' kids. The bigger picture. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Next. And remember, growth makes potential. Potential don't make growth. Next.
Absolutely. This is Deaconess Danielle Ann. I love the fact that when you said the key is a personal growth, and I believe any and all things that we are trying to do. We gotta cut that off. I asked you to move. Sorry. Yeah, it's the personal growth because it's a mindset. I could keep doing the same thing I've been doing. I've been in business for over 14 years now. And if I kept doing the same thing that I've been doing, then I wouldn't be able to grow. Coming to your program is showing that I am serious about changing my way of doing things, because clearly what I've been doing hasn't been working. I mean, it's doing something, but it's not working enough to get me where I want to be and where I should be, where God has called me to be. But I have to change my mindset. It's a personal thing. Like you said, the key is the personal growth. You have to change. You have to educate yourself. And I appreciate you so much, because things that you just went over is amazing. One of the things that stood out to me is deciding that I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be middle class. I know the things that I choose to do and want to do in my life, and doing what I've been doing is not going to get me there. So what do? Well, you educate yourself. And doing this program is educating myself, believing in ourselves, like I said, educating myself, growing in every aspect that I can to get what the knowledge that I need to get to grow my business. I'm super excited about this program. I'm motivated. I have lots of moxie about it. I'm ready to go. I'm hungry. So everything you have given me, I'm just listening to you and I'm going through like, man, you know what I mean? And I'm asking myself, which is, I believe, is a hard thing to do. When you're being real with being real with yourself is a very hard thing to do. And when I sit back and ask myself, have I done everything that I needed to do to get to the next level? Have I put the time in, like you were just saying with Deacon Walt? Have I said, okay, Walt, I can't, do this right now. Okay, son, I need you to go do this. I need to focus on this right now. No, I've always chosen to do other things and be like, okay, I'll get back to that. Or I'm tired now. I have 100 excuses on why I have not put in the time I need to put into my business. And then I turn around and be like, oh, why am I not growing? Oh, Lord, what's going on? But, so when you be real with yourself, am I putting in the time that I need to put into my business? Am I educating myself? I say I don't want to be poor, but what am I doing not to be poor? So I appreciate you very much. I'm ready to go.
Next. Brother David. We can't hear you, David.
What do you say?
Okay, go ahead. All right, Pastor Keeler, go ahead. David, you back? Hello? All right, Pastor Keeler.
For me, it's just going back to, what you initially started everything off with, just personal growth, and having that potential sprout up, because we have things for our business, we have, different goals and everything, but I think if anything stuck out to me the most is when you say, the success came, $300,000 is what your revenue is, what you were bringing in. Well, that was your profit, right? Mm-hmm. But you were still stagnant as far as your personal growth. And that just lets me know that, it's you can make all the money in the world, but if you're not, it's a personal effort. If you're not personally growing, then to me, that's not true success. So I appreciate everything that you shared. A lot of great ideas and different things that I will be sharing with my husband, so that so that we could get the ball rolling as far as our personal growth and having a personal growth plan. That's just outstanding. So yeah, we're looking forward to everything as far as the upcoming workshops that's to come. And I think we're going to be working on how to obtain the personal growth plan, right?
Yep. Your next one will be talking about making the transition to your intentional growth plan. How do you make that transition into that? Okay, we're going to be showing you we're going to be asking the big questions, do it now, and all these things will actually start giving you the idea how to develop your plan, how to deal with the fear factor, how to go from accidentally growth to intentional growth. So we actually have a chart to show you how you accidentally grow and how you intentionally grow. Let me give you an example. Accidental growth, you plan to start tomorrow. Intentional growth insists on starting today. Accidental growth waits for growth to come. Intentional growth takes complete responsibility to grow. So those will be some of the things on the next workshop. You was working a little bit, David. So I'm going to, before I let you go, I'm going to let you go. And you need to be, I'm really very transparent. Some of the things I need you guys to do with the workshops, incubation program, take everything you know and just put it on the side. I'm not telling you, I'm just saying, put it on the side. What you want to be right now is an empty cup. See, because if you're trying to incorporate what you know and what I'm saying, there's going to be some conflict. As you hear certain things, you can pull stuff down to improve the stuff that you have on your shelf. But I really need you to keep the old wineskin, the old wine in the old wineskin, so you can put the new wine in the new wineskin. Okay? And then each of you guys, and Brother David, all of y'all are young, well, younger than me, put it like that, your millennium stage, right? It's real important, right, that moving forward, that you have to take your spiritual and your natural and incorporate it into one. What I mean, when you look in Romans, I think it's Romans chapter 8, he said he has quickened. When you ever hear that word quicken, that means bring to life, right? He said he has quickened our mortal bodies. That means when we were dead and when we got saved, he brought back to life our flesh. And what did he mean when he brought back to life our flesh? Before the fall, right? Adam's flesh had to ask the spirit man who ruled their permission to do anything. Your flesh literally had to ask your spirit man, can I speak? Can I say this? So when we got saved and our mortal body was quickened, right? We are not debtors to our flesh. Our flesh really don't have no power or authority over us. A lot of times people say, oh, my flesh, but really we have control over our flesh to keep our flesh in line to get permission from our spirit man to do anything. Okay? So when I say when you have to take the spiritual and you take your natural, because at first it was natural, right? Look at, I think it's 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians. It talks about the natural was first, then the spirit man. Before you got saved, you were in the natural, right? Stay with me. Then you got saved, you became spiritual. And after you got saved, you became spiritual, and then it became natural, meaning your natural state as a spiritual person. So you go from the natural to the spirit, back to the natural, meaning your spiritual state before the fall. So you have all authority and power, and you don't have two natures. Peter talked about, he said, and we have the nature of Christ. You only have one nature. You don't have two. Okay? So you guys have more authority and power, and don't turn it over to stuff that you have authority over. So what am I saying? You are a human being with human feelings that go through human stuff. And it's okay, because your spirit man will correct all that. It makes sense? So don't get too old before y'all time. What I'm trying to tell you. You can enjoy life, right? Now on earth, right? Because the reason they call Jesus Beelzebub, because people don't know what freedom look like. Freedom looks like is that if you're not saved. That's why they had a problem with Jesus. He was free. He wasn't bound to stuff. And I don't want you guys to get too old too fast, right? Don't get too old. Religion will cause you to act like you 40, 50, 60 years old because of some of the stuff that oppresses your freedom. Am I making sense? So you guys, I am so proud of y'all. You know, y'all are an inspiration to me. And I keep telling you, y'all mean more to me or do more for me than I could ever do for you guys. And I definitely want you guys to continue focused. You're powerful, but remember, the Spirit of God would not have you do stuff you ain't supposed to be doing. Hear me. I'm trying to tell you something. Okay. I don't worry about sinning, because before I get to that place, the Holy Spirit says something. So no matter what it looks like, just trust God. That's what I'm saying. Okay. You guys just enjoy your life. Let God lead you, and don't let man bound you. Not man. Don't let the world system and religion and tradition bound you guys to kill your creativity. Because your creativity is what has to change the world system. If you guys, because this is 2019, I don't have strategies to change the world system because I'm from the 60s. Your strategies in the kingdom principles, is what's going to change the world. And I keep telling older preachers like myself, leave them young folks alone. Just guide them and teach. Let them do their thing, right? They be all right. They love the Lord just like you. They want to see the word in action. We ain't showing them no action. We just talking about, they coming to church. We ain't talking about how this word can walk us through racism and white supremacy and all that stuff that they got to live with right now. The word has the solution for that. The word tells you how to deal with white racism. The word tells you how to deal with all this stuff that's relevant to you guys. You know what I'm saying? See, we went out and partied, and we knew we was coming home. The worst thing that could happen, you might get a black eye or something, Not me, but But you just going to the store, you're not guaranteed to come home nowadays. So how do we apply the word to make sure we get back home? Well, how we apply the word is we don't die. But anyway, love you guys. Appreciate y'all. This been recorded. I'll send y'all out the recording. Peace, holla. Love y'all. Deuces.